The Broken Blueprint Part 3. The Council That Dug the Grave. The 1935 Autumn Council. At the October 1935 Autumn Council, many of our church leaders recognized that a terrible mistake had been made by that vote 4 years earlier. It was seen that it had only worsened the situation. It was hoped that, one way or another, the growing controversy could finally be satisfactorily resolved at this council. On behalf of the Branson Committee, the Branson Report was presented by W. H. Branson to the October 1935 Autumn Council. It was the recommendation of the committee that only 2 of our colleges should seek accreditation so they could send pre-medical students to Loma. The rest should continue training ministers, teachers, and missionaries for the foreign fields. Many of our faithful leaders were horrified at the conclusions of the report. As you might imagine, there was lengthy and even agonized discussions. It was clearly recognized that we had painted ourselves into a corner. Men of God stood to their feet and pled that there was only one way to get out: a total return to the divinely appointed blueprint. An earnest plea to return to the blueprint. Elder Charles H. Watson, 1877 to 1962, General Conference President from 1930 to 1936, explained the whole problem and stated the only worthwhile solution. The facts involve us into the consideration of whether or not we will continue with an educational program that has become more and more worldly, or whether we will start an educational plan that is in harmony with the instruction we have received from God. The plan of accrediting our schools, adopted 4 years ago, has been a very strong contributing factor during these 4 years to our educational program becoming more and more worldly in its character, in its aim, in its determination to meet the requirements of outside accrediting bodies. These accrediting bodies have not only shown their determination, they are determined to control the program of our educational work, and also the methods by which that program shall be carried out. There is no doubt about it. The policy provided in 1931 that we only select teachers with definite Christian experience to enter upon graduate training in the universities of the world. Experience has taught us that this is impossible. For the moment we set the standards for teaching efficiency, then a university training, that moment every young man and young woman who seeks to reach the highest in teaching feels forced to enter upon the training that will bring him to the highest place, and we have not been able to control it. We have such a situation here. As a result of that action, within the last 4 years, 40 of our young people were in one university at the same time seeking training to help them reach their objective in education. If you can continue this program which destroys our own denominational ideals of true education, then we are wasting our time by discussing the report of this commission. It gives some of us a burden, for it has shown itself to be beyond the control of the policy adopted in 1931. The medical college was at one time the chief urge for accreditation. It is a large part of the urge today. And if it comes to a choice between whether we will continue the regular AMA Medical College or go worldly, my vote shall be that we shall not continue our regular AMA medical work, and as a leader in the denomination, I am calling upon you in the fear of God to take this step to keep the principles of true education from being lost to us. That is my appeal. It is silly and useless of us to go to the world with any statement that God has given us the principles of true education and then take steps that will lead us to a total ignorance of these principles in the near future. These are the steps that we have taken in the last 4 years. We are urged in choice between certain things. The training of educators in the service of this denomination requires that our students shall be spiritually fitted, whether we shall keep the doors of our medical college open or close them. Elder C. H. Watson, Statement to Autumn Council, October 30, 1935, quoted in 1935 Branson Report, pages 121 and 124. As you can see from the above statement, there were only two possibilities. Either all connections between Loma Linda and the AMA and other accrediting agencies must be totally severed, or all our other colleges would rather quickly jump on the bandwagon and also become accredited. And of course, all our teachers would want to obtain advanced degrees from outside universities. Elders Watson and Branson, as well as many other leaders deeply loyal to the blueprint, recognized that if universal accreditation and degree seeking became the norm, our colleges would ere long have much the same content as the universities of the world. Reading through these proceedings, it becomes clear that these godly men really anguished over the situation. A dramatic changeover was taking place before their eyes, and they were frightened. Prior to this time, our young people would attend our own schools, become filled with the message, then go out and proclaim it. But suddenly things were changing, and those changes were taking place rapidly. Our youth were getting the idea that the chief end of schooling was to provide themselves with a good paying job. They were beginning to think that the only true higher education was to be found in outside universities. Branson introduces the report. Here are a few excerpts from both Elder Branson's report, presented to the 1935 Autumn Council on October 28 to 30, and the discussion which followed. You will find the complete report in the Branson Report, DH 25 to 28, available from the present publisher. Elder Branson mentioned that only 2 of the 6 colleges had already obtained accreditation, Pacific Union College and Walla Walla College, and the others were desperately trying to obtain it. Elder Branson then discussed the fact that individuals who were not men and women of experience, deeply grounded in the faith, and who have served in the work for years were being hired by our colleges simply in order to satisfy accreditation needs. Instead of a few teachers being selected carefully by college boards as was recommended, that is, teachers who would present outstanding Christian experience, be successful in their Christian work, and have fidelity to the Bible and testimonies that is unquestioned, we have found that a large class of very young and immature people have been finding their way into the universities, believing that it was a highway to appointment in our institutional work. They have not waited to gain these years of Christian experience, the experience that comes through years of Christian service. They have not waited to be chosen by some board that would carefully weigh the question of whether or not this or that individual should go to the university. Scores of these young people have been going from the graduating classes of our colleges into the universities, believing that this would facilitate their going into our work or finding employment in an educational institution. W. H. Branson, Branson Report, October 28, 1935. Elder Branson then viewed the radical changes which had occurred in just the 4 years since the 1931 Autumn Council. Our commission brought us information that, from one college alone, 30 had gone into the university for further training during these 4 years. We are told that, for a social evening in one university, there was a get-together of our Seventh-day Adventist students attending there. 40% of these were at that social, and not all were reached by invitation. We might multiply facts like this, which indicated to us, as we believed, that this thing has gotten out of hand. It has gone way beyond anything the denomination planned, and the byproducts of this are found in the schools where boards have been pressed by the accreditation body to put men on their faculty who have advanced degrees. They did not know where to turn for men of experience and outstanding integrity to fill the positions. They have felt obliged to take some of these immature men who have not been selected but who have pushed their own way into the university, secured their degree, and presented themselves for employment. We believe, Mr. Chairman, that in this we face one of our greatest dangers. For instead of careful selection, we have come to the place where we have been forced to take men who otherwise would not have been chosen for the responsible places to which they were called, Branson reports. Elder Branson then uttered this fearful warning. We believe, as a result of what has taken place, the wrong emphasis is being placed on certain things in our work. We believe that undue emphasis is being placed upon the idea of securing degrees from worldly institutions rather than training our youth for spiritual service in the cause of God. I suppose many of us could testify honestly that we have been hearing more during the past 4 years about degrees, accreditation, and universities than we have heard in our lifetime before. Some of us have had to learn a new vocabulary in the language in trying to fathom what this is all about and what it means. I remember a few years ago we didn't hear such things as we are talking about now. The emphasis now is being placed upon the importance of worldly studies and degrees, and this is having a mighty influence. Scores of teachers believe it is all right for them to be trained in outside universities as a result of denominational sanction and encouragement in advising them to do so. Many who will be lost lose their hold upon God and will not fill a position of responsibility in this cause that it was designed of God that they should fill. If they should fill positions of responsibility, many of them would bring into the denominational work influences that would lead further and further afield from the original purpose that was in the hearts of the men who established this work. Your commission believes, therefore, that, as a denomination, we are drifting, that it is entrusted to us at this Autumn Council of 1935 to endeavor to call a halt, to retrace our course, to drive down new stakes, and determine by the help of God that we will rectify anything that is wrong in what we undertook to do 4 years ago, Branson reports. Elder Branson warned that if we took this step, we would follow in the disastrous course of other denominations. As was pointed out by our General Conference President, C.H. Watson, in his address that was read yesterday morning, Review, November 21, 1935, pages 3 to 8, other religious bodies have passed this way before us. As a result of their efforts to secure worldly recognition, we know they made shipwreck of their faith. There are exceptions in individual cases, but this statement is almost universally true, Branson reports. Elder Branson then quoted a statement made in 1930 by the president of a non-Adventist college. The hitherto undisputed claim that the church college carried a more wholesome moral and spiritual atmosphere has been a compelling argument in its favor, but this claim is seriously questioned today. The requirements of standardizing agencies have compelled the church colleges to shift their emphasis from morality to scholarship. This has changed the whole mental pattern and modified the spirit of church colleges. They have not developed in recent years along lines that express the urge and soul of vital Christianity. They have given up their natural element of greatest strength, religion, and taken up the tax-supported public institutions element of greatest weakness, standardization. The forces that terminate institutions have a long drift, but they move inexorably. Usually the change is at hand before society is aware. The passing of the church college is now taking place, and most of its devotees are looking upon the transition. Some are even players in the drama and do not recognize it. Andrew D. Harmon, president of Transylvania College, statement in Current History, December 1930, quoted in Review, October 24, 1935, and then in the Branson Report, October 28 to 30, 1935. Elder Branson then stated, I wondered, as I read this, whether Seventh-day Adventists were included in the last remark of this statement. The passing of the church college is now taking place, and most of its devotees are looking upon the transition. Some are even players in the drama and do not recognize it. We have been in the period of transition for a period of 4 years. We recognize on every hand that there has been a shift of standards, a shift in the ideals, a shift in the emphasis, till many of our people throughout the churches of this land are becoming alarmed. We hear it on every hand. There is an alarm, and that alarm is in the hearts of our best leaders and laymen that make up the membership of our churches. Since, as this man states, other denominations have passed along this way, the universal result has been the passing of the church college, dropping the ideals of the founders in the establishment of these schools. It seems to us of this commission that we need to restate whether or not we are able to follow the same course they have been following, follow it to its conclusion, and yet stand against the tide that has swept them off their feet. Can we maintain our ideals in their purity and yet reach, to the fullest extent, the recognition from the world and agree to being standardized by the world, which means that we must be under the domination of these worldly organizations? Branson report. Next, Elder Branson cited a specific example. An accreditation board had recently noted that one of our colleges had lost its original objective of training workers. I hold in my hand here a report that was rendered by the representatives of one of these accreditation organizations. A recent report that was made concerning one of our colleges. This college was being surveyed by representatives of the accreditation board to ascertain whether or not their application for accreditation would be granted. In the very outset of the report, we find the following statement was made. The original articles of incorporation in this particular college definitely state that the college was organized to provide special opportunity for men and women to become acquainted with the mission fields and to have education in branches and methods for the same. The school was a part of the missionary program of the church. That ideal has persisted to a considerable extent and has affected the spirit of the curriculum and methods of the college. But a change in emphasis has slowly taken place, and now education as a preparation for various careers and, most of all, for the art of living is the dominant ideal. So we are commended here by representatives of the accreditation board. The comment was because of the fact that we have changed our ideals, are further away from the idea of training men and women for the mission fields of the world, and are coming to the place where we train them for the various careers and the art of living. The Branson report. From the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations. Numbers 23, verse 9. This has been God's program all through the ages. Israel shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations. And I believe that has a very definite application to the Israel of God here in this last generation, as he endeavors to convert the people and to take them to heaven. It seems to me that Israel needs to be free from the government of worldly organizations that know not God in these times. There is setting in on this people a tide of worldliness to which we are surrendering. I do not mean to imply that we are not resisting these influences at all, but I believe that the measure of resistance that we are putting forth is not holding us. We are gradually being swept backward and should be alarmed about it. Branson report. Elder Watson then quoted 6 Spirit of Prophecy passages in which the path we should take was clearly stated. 6 Testimonies, page 145, CT, page 86, also in 5 Testimony or 5T21, written in 1881, CT 532, 6T 142, FE pages 534 to 535. Elder Branson then recommended that, as a means of compromise, only 2 of our colleges should receive full 4-year accreditation. Following a brief mention as to why Pacific Union College and Emmanuel Missionary College were the 2 to be selected, Elder Branson concluded his presentation. More on this compromise later. Deep concern by other church leaders. As Elder Branson finished his remarks, everyone was deeply moved. Church leaders recognized that this meeting in 1935 would be pivotal in the history of the church, and so it proved. Other leaders now arose and spoke. I was riding on the train with a Baptist director for the state of Wisconsin who was in charge of 156 Baptist churches. He told me he had eliminated every fundamentalist preacher out of those churches except 3, and he expected to clean them up within the year. That is what a Baptist university did for the Baptist denomination. At Chicago, Baptist University is almost entirely responsible for what has happened to the Baptist churches of America. I believe we have started on the same road, the highway that will head to the undermining of the foundations of this movement. I believe God is at this time calling for repentance and for us to turn about face and to take our stand and escape the consequences and turn to the right. The Lord has counseled us not to be connected by so much as a thread, and yet some of our schools are so bound to worldly systems that we cannot cut the rope. It will take a decided attitude on our part to save them. I would feel terrible if, as a denomination, we would have to travel the same desert road that the other Protestant denominations have been traveling, and, as sure as we start on these roads, we will turn out in the same way. W.A. Nelson, President of the New Jersey Conference, Autumn Council, October 28 to 30, 1935. Elder Watson spoke next. I believe God has placed before us very definitely the standards that we have, and we do not have to go to the world to inquire. I think we have been mistaken in accepting standards from the world in education and in other standards. C.H. Watson, President, General Conference, Autumn Council, October 28 to 30, 1935. The President of the Canadian Union Conference spoke. I believe that the entire future of the youth of this denomination is dependent upon maintaining, in the institutions of education, the educational policies of this denomination, right principles, and clinging to the blueprint that God has given to us. Not very long ago, I had the privilege of visiting with the man who stands at the head of the schools of an entire denomination. During the course of our conversation, he said that he was deeply concerned over the trend of his denomination, stating that his denomination was rapidly losing its youth, and I know his statement is correct. He stated that it seems to him the way schools at the present time, colleges and seminaries are drifting into a worldly direction. Years from now, they will cease to exist if we continue to drift in this direction. I asked him why he made such a statement. He pointed out to me that since schools had reached out, affiliated with the universities, and employed teachers who have been trained in non-Christian universities, they have come back into the schools, brought to the schoolroom a spirit of unbelief in the book of all books, and we are drifting. As a member of this denomination, I do not want to be a party in that direction in any plan that will make it more difficult for our youth to hold true to the fundamentals that God has given to us. Elder S.A. Ruskager, Canadian Union Conference, President, Autumn Council, October 28 to 30, 1935. Elder Wilcox, one of the many outstanding editors of the Review in earlier years, spoke. 4 years ago, I stood very decidedly against the accreditation in any form. I stand on practically the same ground today. I was a member of this commission, and I united with my brethren in presenting this report because it seems to me it was the best under the circumstances. In the last few years, there has been a university bias. I tell you how I think we can protect that. I think we should enunciate the principles we have heard from this desk, to return to our old paths, and, in our personal influence as workers, to turn the hearts of our parents and children away from the wrong way. I believe it would go much further than any resolution that we can pass here. While I favor this report, it is a compromise. I favor it as a compromise, and I hope there will come a time next year when we can return free from these influences all about us. Elder F.M. Wilcox, Editor, Review. 2 other leaders spoke. If we do not accredit our medical schools, we fear what can happen to us, we are already told. We were told yesterday to exercise faith. I do not honestly see how I can go back and repeat your speech, Elder Watson, and, when the brethren ask me, are we tied by a thread, say, not a thread. How can I harmonize that by what we are doing today. And now we think we are saved from the cause of these wicked things by eliminating 3 from accreditation. I am afraid we will rue this day if we will go ahead with this program. 4 years ago, we did make a mistake. We made a mistake, as you say. President Anderson, probably J.N. Anderson, President of Union College. Mr. Chairman, I do not wish to appear opposed to this resolution, but I remember 4 years ago when I was talking to Elder McElhaney about this matter when the vote was taken. He said we will see the day when we will rue what we have done. Now we have accredited 2 senior colleges. Now we propose to recommend that another college be accredited and that all junior colleges proceed with caution. If this is wrong, how can it be right to recommend to accredit another? If we should not be tied by so much as a thread, why not cut loose? Elder Rice, probably M.L. Rice, a president of various conferences throughout those years. C.L. Watson arose again. He voiced the problem in the minds of all present. They well recognized that, although most of the influential leaders did not want our colleges to receive accreditation, they felt helpless in the face of the demands of Loma Linda. That decision in 1912 to accredit CME was threatening to open the door to all our teachers being trained in outside schools and all our colleges being forced to obey the demands of worldly accreditation agencies. What they did not seem to realize was that Loma Linda would not close its doors if it was not accredited. It would instead return to the training of medical missionaries and nurses for foreign fields. Indeed, as Percy Magan had discovered to his sorrow, the students who attended the accredited CME were leaving to start medical practices in California. Under such circumstances, there was no reason to keep that school open. Now, we recognize that very much of the urge of accreditation for educational work has come from the medical college, for it can only carry on its work on that basis, the basis allowed by the American Medical Association. Unless we decide to wholly discontinue that medical college, there has to be accreditation of the schools that prepare students for entrance to the courses in the college. There is no other way of having them enter there. There has to be certain specialized training of at least some of the teachers that prepare students for entrance to these schools in which that training is given, and these schools in which that training is given must be accredited. These must be at least junior colleges. C.L. Watson, President of the General Conference. At this, a faithful college president arose to his feet. Mr. Chairman, I think it should be defined here what accrediting really is. I cannot read anywhere in the testimonies that, in order to meet state requirements, we shall have to join up with the North Central Association or the Middle States Association or any other regional body, for these associations have no state recognition. They are not known by the state. They have no legal sanction or status. If we are obliged to accredit our schools at all, as some seem to think, to meet the requirements of the statements in the spirit of prophecy, if this is the real interpretation, why cannot we get state recognition instead? Personally, I do not believe in any accreditation at all from outside sources. If we are going to come out of Babylon, why not come altogether out and not have 2 or 3 schools in? H. Hamilton, President of Washington Missionary College. At this juncture, Percy Magan, who had only arrived the night before, stood to speak and dropped a new bombshell. Within a couple of years, none of the colleges would be eligible to send graduates to Loma Linda. This was because all those already accredited only had 2-year accreditation. They would have to begin the toilsome and very expensive task of upgrading to 3 or 4-year status. Church leaders were beginning to see that there would never be an end to the upward spiral of college accreditation and teacher certification requirements. With such warning, they should have voted to return to the educational blueprint given so many years earlier to our people. Mr. Chairman, I am not rising to discuss in any way the entire question. I have not been here. I only got here last night from Toronto, where it was my duty to attend a meeting of the Association of AMA Colleges, and the proposal was put forth that the medical colleges should be obliged to go on a 3-year pre-medical basis, and that means a 3-year accredited basis. That is not the law yet, but that was brought up by Dr. Patterson, the president, in his annual address, and it seems to have met with practically universal favor. In all probability, by another year or so, you will see that rule. I am stating this to you because as sure as medical schools are obliged to go to a 3-year basis, then within a year or 2 years, junior colleges are out of the list. P.T. Megan, President, College of Medical Evangelists. That news shook the entire assembly. So W.A. Nelson of the General Conference Department of Education gave a brief appeal to approve the Branson report for the sake of high attainment in Adventist education. Then Elder Watson rose to his feet and said this: "The facts involve us in the consideration of whether or not we will continue with an educational program that has become more and more worldly, or whether we will start an educational plan that is in harmony with the instruction we have received from God. The plan of accrediting our schools, adopted 4 years ago, has been a very strong contributing factor during these 4 years to our educational program becoming more and more worldly in its character, in its aim, in its determination to meet the requirements of outside accreditation bodies. These accreditation bodies have not only shown their determination, they are determined to control the program of our educational work and also the methods by which that program shall be carried out. There is no doubt about it." C.L. Watson, General Conference President. Next, Elder Branson arose and pled with the members to approve the report for the accreditation of at least 2 of our colleges, at least, on a temporary tryout basis. It seems to members of the commission that we are shut up to 3 courses of procedure. All these 3 views have been agitated on the floor of the council. One is that we do nothing to try to turn back the tide of worldliness flooding our schools, do nothing to meet or quiet the fears of those who think we are in the wrong way. We cannot conceive of this council taking a stand of that kind. We feel, on the other hand, that a great number of suggestions have been made that go to the other extreme, to sweep aside altogether this plan for accreditation of our schools. We think these suggestions would be premature. It may come to that. It may come to the place where we shall have to close the medical college. But I join the president of the General Conference and say that, if it is necessary to do that to stem the tide of worldliness, I would be favorable to it. I do not believe that this denomination must be led into a worldly position by any institution in our ranks. I do not believe that it is the desire of the medical college. Yet it has been the urge that has come from the medical college to urge us to accredit this thing 4 years ago, and it will be the urge from that school to continue on as is. I don't believe that we should be hasty in an action to brush aside accreditation. That would mean closing the medical college, closing all teacher training. I believe in the plan suggested by the Commission, that which adequately provides for the meeting of every need of the medical college for the present. We do not have a 3-year preparatory course yet. We do not know that it will ever be a 3-year course. If it ever comes to a 3-year course, we can accomplish that without accrediting all our colleges and can go on as we have. W.H. Branson, Vice President for North American Division. Elder Branson acknowledged that not one Adventist college had an accredited 3-year preparatory medical course. Although probably unintended, the error in the above argument is that, if accreditation and degrees were rejected, this would close down Loma Linda or stop our training of missionary physicians and nurses. But this was not so. They could still receive a thorough training and then leave to work as missionaries. In addition, short courses in natural remedies could also be given to interested believers who wanted to help their neighbors here in the United States. Elder Piper, board chairman of Union College, clearly gave the only correct solution. The policy provided in 1931 that we only select teachers with definite Christian experience to enter upon graduate training in the universities of the world. Experience has taught us that this is impossible. For the moment we set the standards for teaching efficiency with a university training, that moment every young man and young woman who seeks to reach the highest in teaching feels forced to enter upon the training that will bring him to the highest place, and we have not been able to control it. We have such a situation here. As a result of that action within the last 4 years, 40 of our young people were in one university at the same time, seeking training to help them reach their objectives in education. If you can continue this program, which destroys our own denominational ideals of true education, then we are wasting our time by discussing the report of this commission. It gives some of us a burden, for it has shown itself to be beyond the control of the policy adopted in 1931. The medical college was at one time the chief urge for accreditation. It is a large part of the urge today, and if it comes to a choice between whether we continue the medical college or go worldly, my vote shall be that we shall not continue our medical work, and as a leader in the denomination, I am calling upon you in the fear of God to take this step to keep the principles of true education from being lost to us. That is my appeal. It is silly and useless of us to go to the world with any statement that God has given us, the principles of true education, and then take steps that will head us toward a total ignorance of these principles in the very near future. These are the steps that we have taken in the last 4 years. We are urged to choose between certain things. The training of educators in the service of this denomination requires that our students shall be fitted, whether we shall keep the doors of our medical college open or close them. Elder J.F. Piper, Union College Board Chairman. Elder H.H. Votaw, Head of the General Conference Religious Liberty Department, a powerful speaker, said it clearly. I think Brother Watson's talk just now has risen to the height of his Tuesday morning talk. Yet we are preparing to send boys to hell in 3 of our schools. If this is the plan, we have no right to set up 2 colleges already set up, going to set up a 3rd one, and do the very thing that we ought not to do. I cannot see any difference between 2 and 6 for the whole system of schools. If this accreditation is wrong, it is wrong altogether. It is wrong in 2 of them. I cannot bring myself up here to find any agreement between the speech of the President of the General Conference and the report of this commission. The commission says you have only 2 schools already in. They are accredited schools. We are going to keep one accredited and are not going to take the other out without wrecking many of our other schools. Let us face the thing, do one thing or the other. I cannot see it any other way between sending boys and girls to hell from 3 schools or 6. If it is wrong, let us quit it. I am the president of the Union College Board. My interests are there. I am glad if this is the proper way to do, by accrediting EMC and PUC. I am glad they have your accreditation and recognition, but, brethren, I cannot yet see the consistency of this. I appreciated the remarks Elder Watson made. He has clarified the situation some. Maybe it is necessary for me to go on and allow the world to direct our movement in connection with fitting our young men and young women for medical work. Possibly that is so, but I do not see light in compromising with the world in any degree. I am ready to cast my vote contrary to this recommendation because I do not see its consistency. I do not see light in the proposition. Elder Herbert H. Votaw, General Conference Religious Liberty Department. The 1935 Compromise Vote. After extensive discussion, a compromise vote was taken. Aside from Loma, which was already accredited, only 2 of our colleges were to hold 2-year accreditation, Pacific Union College and Emmanuel Missionary College. The other colleges were to continue training missionaries for foreign fields. In other words, 3 colleges, including Loma, would be permitted to depart from the blueprint, but the other colleges, Washington Missionary College, Atlantic Union College, and Walla Walla College are listed, must remain on it, and did not obtain accreditation. Walla Walla, which had already obtained 2-year accreditation, would by the recommendation have to cancel it. All of the above were specifically stated to be senior 4-year colleges. The entire decision was printed in the November 28, 1935 issue of the Review under the title Recommendations of the Educational Council, adopted by the Autumn Council. Clarification. Mention was made that in 1935 we had 6 colleges, but no mention was made in the discussion of 3 other colleges: Southwestern Junior College, Southern Missionary College, and Oakwood College, probably because in 1935 they were still junior colleges. One speaker at the council said Loma Linda, Pacific Union College, and Walla Walla already had accreditation, another that Emmanuel Missionary College already had it, and another that it would soon have it. Elder Branson recommended that Pacific Union College and Emmanuel Missionary College should alone retain a 2-year accreditation status. In reality, by 1935, 4 of the colleges had become accredited: Loma Linda in 1922. The other 3 had received junior, 2-year college accreditation. This meant that only the first 2 years of their 3 or 4 years of study were accredited. These 3 were Emmanuel Missionary College in 1922, Walla Walla College in 1932, and Pacific Union College in 1933. Prior to 1931, several colleges had been trying to obtain 2-year accreditation status. The 1931 Autumn Council vote said that all the colleges could obtain 2-year college accreditation. Branson's 1935 recommendation was that only 2 colleges should have 2-year college accreditation: Pacific Union College and Emmanuel Missionary College. A primary reason was that they were in opposite parts of the continent. Branson's plan would require that Walla Walla's accreditation be cancelled. However, early in the discussion following Branson's presentation, P.T. Megan spoke up and said that the latest edict from the AMA was that within 2 years, no 2-year accredited school could send students to Loma Linda, only 4-year accredited colleges. Obviously, there were only 2 routes our church could take: either let the colleges move toward the full accreditation or call a halt, eliminate all accreditation including at Loma Linda, and return all our schools to their original objectives. None of the schools would have to close their doors. Those students who wished to fulfill the blueprint would attend them. Those who wished to obtain a worldly education for self-advancement were free to attend other colleges and universities, state, private, or religious.